Hello, NAAIA community. Get ready to relive insightful discussions, gain fresh perspectives, and be inspired by the wealth of knowledge our community has to offer. Let's dive into another episode.
Fellow NAAIA members, industry colleagues, and friends, it's my honor to welcome you to the first national program in celebration of National Life Insurance Awareness Month. It started actually in 2004 to encourage us to take advantage of and evaluate our life insurance needs, seek out education on the value of life insurance, and understand the types of coverage that's available. Today we gathered to do just that and more as we explore our theme, which is bridging the gap. Insurance is a wealth building tool. Life insurance is much more than a financial product. It's a promise of security, protection, and peace of mind. This month, we shine a light on the critical role life insurance plays in building wealth, financial resilience, and safeguarding families' futures. Whether it's protecting loved ones from financial hardship, ensuring generational wealth, or providing stability in times of uncertainty. At NAAIA, we understand that access to life insurance is not just an individual choice, it's a critical conversation for our community. We recognize that historically underserved communities, particularly communities of color and low-income communities, face unique challenges in accessing life insurance, resulting in significant protection gaps. Today, we're here only to not only to discuss the challenges, but to celebrate the progress made and the ways that we can help bridge the gap. Our program today features leaders in the life insurance industry who are passionate about insurance awareness and access within our communities. We'll hear from experts who are shaping the future of life insurance, addressing misconceptions, and ensuring that more families, especially those in marginalized communities, can benefit from the production. To lead us in today's conversation, it's my pleasure to welcome our moderator, Patience Noah, Principal Agent at Patience Noah Insurance, who will get us started. Patience, take us away.
Thank you, Clive. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. And I see a lot of you guys are joining us from all across the U.S. Welcome. And today I'm excited to be a part of this panel because it's going to be a conversation. You know, I've been in the industry for several years, and one of the conversations that either people are comfortable to have is life insurance. Folks are very comfortable with it, but then a lot of folks are still getting acquainted with it. A lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to life insurance. So we're here today to take care of that misconception. And I have a couple of people that are going to join me on the panel today. But before we get started, before we get into the nitty-gritty of life insurance, I want them to introduce themselves and tell you who they are, how long they've been in the industry, and what brought them into the industry. So we are going to get started with Eugene. Eugene, please tell us about your insurance journey and how you got into the industry.
Sure. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the country, and happy Life Insurance Awareness Month to everybody. So good morning, family. Thank you, Patience, for moderating here. Thank you, Clive, for the intro, and thank you, Jephthah, for organizing. Truly excited to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure to be back with this important conversation, this topic that I am extremely passionate about. I know folks over the years have heard me. And to get you going, I am currently the CEO and founder of Wealth and Equity, Inc., which is an insurance education and purchasing platform. We're just launching here during Life Insurance Awareness Month. And we're going to talk about how this is going to change the education process, the access, the awareness, and of course, then the action that folks takes. But to answer your question there, Patience, I honestly had never had insurance on my radar in undergrad or in grad school, right? I actually came up from Miami to go to school at NYU for my MBA. I interned out in California doing corporate finance at a tech company. And it was the recession before the last recession, where the tech bubble burst. So I don't want to age myself here, right? But tech bubble burst, I knew I didn't want to go back out there. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And a friend says, you know, there's this old stodgy life insurance company right there in Manhattan, not far from school, that has a leadership development program that that you were looking for. So why don't you sit there and wait till the recession passes and then go somewhere else? So like many, I fell into life insurance. But what had happened was that kept me here was two things, really. That the first is in this rotational program I was in, I got to sit in this cultural marketing group where they were making targeted outreach, branding, sales, and recruiting to 5 cultural markets: the Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Hispanic, and Indian markets. They saw the changing face of America. We're trying to diversify, right? Of course, they didn't have African-American market. So here's where I'm going is, as I sat amongst these other groups, I saw how they were using these tools of life insurance, especially to create and pass on wealth for their families and their communities in ways I'd never seen before. I just had an MBA. I'd never heard any of this, right? Nobody I knew was doing these things. So that was one I wanted to share this message. So I wrote the business plan for the African-American market to join that. But more importantly, I think the thing that really struck me and made me want to spread the message was when I got off this program, I got promoted to an assistant vice president, right? And I got a letter in the inter-office mail that says, congratulations on your promotion. As a newly appointed officer at the company, we want to take out a $2.5 million policy on your life to benefit the retirement fund of New York Life. And so I share this because I think there's a lot of corporate folks on the line here and we'll be watching. I just want to share with you, you know, I asked, well, what is this? And they said, oh, that's common practice. We call it corporate-owned life insurance. So, okay. I said, you know, there's nothing in it for me, nothing for my family. He said, no, this is just a way that the company sets themselves up for the future. And I said, I've never heard of it. And where does this $2.5 million come from? And they said, that's what they value you at, right? They said, that's what you're worth. I said, I don't get it. They said, well, there's different ways to calculate your value and your worth. The first is to do a current value of your future earnings. You are 30 years old, making $100,000. You're going to work here another 25 years. That's $2.5 million without raises and without promotions. And they said, what do you mean you've never thought about this? Don't you have life insurance to protect that income in case anything happens to you and you don't make it home? To which I said, no. Right. And they said, well, what would happen to your family if something happened? And I became extra sad because I realized the company valued me more than I valued myself. And where I'm going with this and why I wanted to lead off with this is because I think many of us are probably insured more to benefit the company that we're at than we are to benefit our families. So that's where I want to start the conversation about, really raising the intention of using life insurance to make a difference for our families and our communities.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Eugene. So before I go on to the next thing, one of the things that I really want people to take from this conversation today is when we are talking about life insurance, I get asked this question a lot, especially when I'm talking to young couples. Well, are you trying to kill me? That's the first thing that comes up, right, in the community. So today we really want to dive deeper, and Eugene is going to go deeper into this as we ask questions and get down the line. But one of the things that he said to me that really stuck out to me is that his company took out a $2.5 million on his life because of the value that they saw in his life, right? So sometimes other people see us more than we see ourselves. And that is the idea that the Black community hasn't caught on to yet. And this is something that, our counterparts have caught on to. And once their children are born, immediately they get life insurance on them. But with the Black community, we're still catching on. But I'm really glad that we're having conversations like this to help, bridge that gap. So I'll pass it on to Mr. Barnett to make an introduction of himself.
No, I appreciate that, and Eugene, I remember that inner office document that we all received when we received that promotion from that point on. And like you said, it is a stark feeling when you recognize that the organization you're working with, values you from a dollar perspective more than oftentimes we value ourselves. But we'll dive into that. Hello, everyone. I'm Antaun Barnett. As you see here, yes, work with the Barnett Advisory Group. But even more excited, I'm the Chief Operating Officer and co-founder of Wealth and Equity Inc. Eugene and I, we decided to partner together earlier this year, really to take the mission around driving awareness, access, action with assistance into the Black, diverse, and underserved communities to make sure that everyone really understood the value and the importance of life insurance. To answer patients' questions, and I guess a little differently than Eugene, I wouldn't say that I ran away from the insurance business, but I would say that I kind of I think I more so fell into it. I was kind of groomed into the business, being that my father was an agent for over 30 years as a financial professional. I think about my family. My kid brother is an agent and financial professional. My older brother is a managing partner and financial professional. And but it wasn't something that I actually loved and wanted to really do. It wasn't until I was about 14 years old or so when I was playing baseball, being a spoiled-headed bratty kid, and made an all-star team. And as I was at my All-Star game, I recognized one of the people that I was expecting to be there. My dad wasn't at the game. He didn't make it, but at the end of the game, he shows up to our place. Parents separated at that point, showed up to our home, and he says, "Hey, I'm sorry I missed the game, but do you realize why I missed your game?" Couldn't really understand, couldn't really fathom what what and why that possibly could have been the case. So really resistant, really reluctant. I kind of snapped back at him. He said, "Well, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to show you exactly what your father does for a living as an insurance agent and a financial professional." He picked me up in the Bronx, put me in his car, and on that Sunday morning, we drove through all 5 boroughs in New York City at that point in time, drove to upstate New York to go see another client for a $14 check. We then drove at the end of the evening to New Jersey. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Around 7:30 p.m., we show up to this home in Jersey, and there's this young lady just swinging on the swing, crying her eyes out. And as we show up, we walk into the home, and there's a celebration of life going on, no doubt about it. Videos are playing, families gathered, food is being passed. And then all of a sudden, this young lady drops everything she's doing. She darts across the room to see my dad, and she says, "Mr. Barnett, thank you, thank you, thank you." He drops his briefcase, gives her a hug, and he goes into his briefcase and he gives her an envelope. And he says to her, "Though this envelope in itself may never bring your husband back, rest assured he thought about you guys, and hopefully this dollar amount will bring some financial solace to you and your family." At that moment, I recognized what my father did, but also the importance of what financial professionals and life insurance agents do. While everyone is running away from the fire, life insurance agents, financial professionals run in. You guys and gals on the line are truly the superheroes as it relates to the messaging, to the awareness, and driving change in your communities. As I was having this conversation in a similar panel just a couple months back, what was so interesting was having this conversation. There was a gentleman in Orlando who was sitting on the edge of the stage. And at the end of I finished, I'm giving high fives and talking to folks. He walks up to me and he says, "Hey, Mr. Barnett, is your father, by the way, is he Alvin Barnett?" And I said, "Yeah, he is." "Why?" He said, "Because it's so wild to me. But that family you were just talking about is my family. The young lady you were talking about is my little cousin." He said, "In fact, your father is still very close to my family," and pulled up his cell phone and began to show me photos of the young lady. And he said that she actually got married last weekend and your father attended. So when we think about the impact that we make, understanding that that check kept that family in the house, understanding that that check in itself was able to make sure that those children were able to go to the colleges that they saw fit. And then what we were also told was that that check that was provided at that moment paid for that young lady's funeral sometime in the future. That's the impact we truly make as financial professionals. And I don't want anyone on this line to ever discount the value and the impact that you're making. So we're thrilled to be here, thrilled to talk about how we can naturally leverage our marketplace and our communities through the value and the power of life insurance.
Thank you, Antoine. Thank you. The word that we're taking from this is impact. And we would dive deeper into that. I believe Kevin, I'm not 100% sure. Is Kevin one of our panelists? Kevin, are you available? All right. So we'll continue. So before I go on to the next question, how I ended up in the industry, I had graduated. I'm not going to tell you the year I graduated, but I had graduated several years ago. And after I had graduated, I was struggling to get a job. I studied marketing. And after graduating, I was struggling to get a job. And a mentor of mine took me to dinner, and he shared with me, "What do you plan on doing with your life?" I said, I just want something that I'll have control of my time and I'll make a lot of money. And then he was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, I just want to make a lot of money." Now, fast forward 11 years later, we're still working on the money part, but as the agency principal at Patients Know Insurance, I've definitely learned a lot. And the passion that I have for this industry, I've come to realize that, again, this is something that a lot of people take for granted. And what really encouraged me to come into insurance and take it seriously is that for many, many years, when you go down the street, you see an insurance company that's been down the street for 100 years, 50 years, 60 years. And the question is, what keeps them going, right? And how come every time, at the time in corporate, I went as far as being a marketing rep, which allowed me to go from agency to agency. And every time I walked into an agent's office, they were waiting for my boss to come in, right? Because at the time, they felt like I was too young to be a marketing rep. And you didn't see Black people walking in the New England area. You didn't see a Black marketing rep walking into an agency. And every time I went there, I never really saw any agency owners that looked like me, or those who were at the front line or at the top levels did not look like me. So that really sparked something in me to want to start an agency. And then also being in service and, you know, doing sales and things like that, you see people are just pushing policies in front of people, especially the immigrant community, because I am from Liberia originally. And when they come here, nobody understands what they're buying. All they hear is sign on the dotted line. You have no idea, okay, is this policy adequate for me? Like, they just pay, right? Even if it cancels, they don't know. Like, all they know is they had a policy, is not, is no longer active. Folks don't know the coverages that they're getting and things like that. So this is really what encouraged me to get into the insurance industry. And I came into it to educate my community and really dive deeper and speak the language that they understand, right? So that's why it's really important for us to represent our communities, for us to teach our communities the things that they don't know. And that is why we are on this panel tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going back to Eugene and Antaun. What is life insurance and why is it crucial for as a financial planning or as part of the financial planning process for our people?
Jump in there. And I think one key word that you just said in sharing, and thank you for sharing, adequate life insurance, I think is a key. See, as I think about, and I know we have a lot of P&C folks on the line, you know, as you have insurance to protect the value of your car and your house and even your cell phone, right? And we wouldn't go without insurance on any of those. Life insurance, and that's in case you lose them or they break, right? Similarly, I want us to think about life insurance in the way of protecting ourselves in case we die or we get sick, right? What we're doing on our platform, Wealth and Equity, we want to now talk about your value to yourself and your family. We're calling it your personal wealth potential, right? So what we're taking into consideration is your income, right? Your replacement income if you're not there or if you can't work, right? The debts that you need to cover, the investments that you currently have, your dependents' needs, the goals that you have in life. Your value to yourself and your family is a large number. For most of us, it will be millions of dollars if you really wanted to quantify this. That's where I think a lot of us are missing, right? And so where I go is that life insurance, especially that first policy, like you said, and it doesn't have to be expensive, but a larger and adequate face amount should be the foundation of your financial plan. Right. And from there, once that's in place, then you can add on different types of policies to build wealth and to pass on wealth. That's what you were saying the other communities have been doing around us. Right. Mm-hmm. I go into looking at the amount of life insurance in force across the country is $19.6 trillion. Right. That's larger than most GDPs of the countries around the world, right? $19.6 trillion. Over the years, 20 plus years I've been in this, working this, and especially in this space, I say that Black folks only own 3% of that coverage amount, right? So over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, as a fact of life, all of us are going to pass, but only 3% of that 19.6 trillion will come back to the Black community. Another way to say it is 97% of that wealth will go elsewhere. So that's why I think it's important for us to recognize, you know, this as a financial planning foundation, but also a tool that you know, you're guaranteed to pass. That we can leverage, you know, in the way of inheritance and charitable contributions, because that's a big piece that we're missing. Antaun, would you add on?
Well, I think you nailed it, man. Especially, again, piggybacking off of what you're saying, and really the word end of the day is adequate.
Yeah.
Because when we think about life insurance coverage, it isn't that, Black, Hispanics and the like don't purchase insurance. It's the fact that we don't purchase enough. We don't purchase the adequate amount of coverage or the amount to cover our personal wealth potential. Oftentimes, when we go through these calculators, we have these conversations with advisors and the like, our clients and prospects. Folks just think about going ahead and structuring life insurance as a final expense policy, a final expense strategy. We've even been told in some walks of life that, some folks simply look at this as a poverty prevention tool. But that's not how we think about it. And you think about other communities at this point, they look and leverage life insurance more than anything else as not just a product, but a financial solution and a financial tool, right? For the wealth managers that are also on the line out there, they think about it, you're thinking about this, other folks are thinking about this as a hedge in one's portfolio, right? Oftentimes we find that a lot of folks in our communities, we continue to talk about the death benefit portion. We don't really do that great of a job of talking about the living benefits, how these products in themselves have embedded tax benefits, embedded tax shelters that are found within these contracts that can help create wealth within our communities. We don't talk that much about how we can leverage the cash values that are found within the vehicle to take advantage of other investment opportunities. We don't talk about how we can leverage these vehicles in themselves, again, with the tax favorability. Oftentimes we talk about being in the market, purchasing real estate, purchasing market-based products. Life insurance, certain products, certain variable products have those tools, have those features. So to really put a bow on this, when I think about what life insurance is, I don't think about what it's called. I like to think about what the vehicle does. I think about the tax efficiencies. I think about the flexibility. I think about the ways that folks in our community, if given the awareness and the education, will raise their hand, right? Once they and to say that I want access to this tool such that I can go forward and start leveraging and making impact for myself, my family, as well as my community. So it's so much more than a death benefit. And we think we have a unique opportunity and guise in which we can communicate that to the folks that look like us.
Can I add something more? Because you said more than a death benefit, right? That you mentioned living benefits, right? You talk about sort of taking and accessing the cash value, but also there are companies that allow you to tap the face amount if you have a chronic illness, right? A critical illness, a terminal illness. I know one company, if you have Alzheimer's, they allow you to take from the face amount of the policy, right? If you for fertility treatment, they allow you to tap this now. So there's ways to use this for while you're alive. Everybody's saying I have to die. Everybody else is going to benefit. There's ways that you can use this while you're alive. The other part I wanted to weigh in on is leaving something of significance. I think we are the most charitable in the Black community in the way of giving back to church and everything else that's been documented. But the ways to leverage that. I was at a philanthropy conference a few weeks ago, and there was a guest speaker. It was Liz Thompson, who is the wife of Don Thompson, who was the first Black CEO of McDonald's worldwide, right? So in their course of their relationship, of his career path, they've taken on lots of investments. They started their own investment fund. The lady says, I think it's doing quite well. What's the value? She said, $1.2 billion. I'm like, oh, you're doing really well, right? But where I'm going, she's like, but you do a lot in the way of philanthropy. She's like, yes. And she said, how did you get started? Well, she said, somebody showed us how we could leave a lot of money back for a little investment, right? So they both met and graduated from Purdue University. So they said, we gave $1 million back to Purdue, and we gave $1 million to the Ronald McDonald's House. And it only cost us $100,000 to do each one. And they're like, well, how did you do that? And they said, we leveraged the tool of life insurance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, this is for those who know, they know how to use these tools. So they had the name on the plaque at school. They've been recognized, and all that it took them was $100,000 to do this, right? So these are some of the things that you talk about. The use of this tool goes well beyond the death benefit. But many of us, we've not been exposed. We've been, made to distrust and to not want to learn about it. So this is the opportunity, and hopefully we can get this out, especially in this platform that we're launching to convey these messages and these success stories of how this.
That's the other piece of it. It's the stories, right? One of we had the pleasure of meeting the commissioner, Commissioner King, in of the state of Georgia a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that he said is one of the most undervalued stories that are sold is the most successful, is the success story, as a life insurance success story in the form of an insurance agent handing out or providing a death claim to a family that needs it most, right?
Mhm.
Families in my 20 plus years in this business, they rarely ask when I provided a death check or a death claim, you know, what type of policy was this, Mr. Barnett? They typically ask me, is this enough? Right? They want to typically at that point in time go through the budgets to make sure that the dollars in themselves are going to be apportioned and structured the way that their, you know, that their loved ones saw best fit and most appropriated. So those are the conversations, being willing, being bold enough to tell these stories and have these conversations within our community. That's how we're going to not just drive awareness, but that's how we're going to impact change. So I'll turn it back over to you, Patience.
Quick shout out to
Awesome,
Rebecca
awesome.
Ratliff. She was the one that got us in to speak to the convention.
Indeed, indeed,
Rebecca. I
indeed.
saw her
My-
typing in the
My
chat box.
job
Thank
today,
you.
my
Appreciate you
job
there,
today is
Rebecca.
to get the two of you talking, and you know, and I love what you guys are sharing with the audience. And of course, we're professionals here, a lot of us. So before I jump into the next question, if you're just joining us, we are talking about life insurance, the benefits of life insurance, and how you can use it beyond death benefits. That is what we're talking about. We have the question, the Q&A box. So if you have a question, please utilize the chat box, utilize the questions. At the end of this, we are going to open it up to the audience so that we can answer your questions. Now, we're here to answer whatever questions that you guys may have today. That is our job. Although we're the ones doing the talking, we're here for you guys today. So please, please, please utilize the chat. Now, there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to life insurance. I remember a few years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, I had this young lady that was starting a home healthcare agency. And, you know, after I helped her with her business insurance, I went to her house. We talked about life insurance. She was smart enough. She already had one through her job. And I was like, girl, what happens if your business picks up and you have life insurance through your job? Like, what's up with that? You need to get a separate life insurance. So she got a separate life insurance. Now I was like, okay, what about your husband? So she turns over to her husband. She was like, oh, honey, Patience said we should get you life insurance. And he said, girl, what are you trying to kill me? And me coming from the Liberian community is something that I hear quite frequently in the African community. The moment a spouse talks about life insurance, now, yes, there are some people that have done horrible things with life insurance, but you know, unfortunately, it's the bad stories that stick into people's minds, right? So I want you guys to, you know, talk about the misconceptions out there concerning life insurance so that some of the people on this line that are in doubt, right, that may feel like, okay, I haven't had life insurance because my spouse is trying to kill me. Let's break it down for them, because I don't think this is how other communities look at it, right? Because the moment you get married, guess what? Folks are getting, you know, life insurance as a couple or, you know, separately and things like that, and they're leaving their spouse as the beneficiary. What are some of the misconceptions that we need to dispel in our community when it comes to life insurance?
Eugene, I want you to jump in on this one.
Oh,
But
sure.
Patience, you just mentioned just one of the at the tail end of that. You mentioned how when folks get married, right? One of the initial conversations or one of the, you know, immediate conversations that are typically had are, you know, the convergence of finances, right? The planning, the life insurance side of it. But what I would tell you is that, you know, if we're lucky to have that conversation with our significant other, that's one piece of the puzzle. What I will tell you is that the affluent folks out there, the ultra high net worth, the parents of the bride and the groom oftentimes are having that conversation, right? As their daughters are getting married to their new son-in-law, as their sons are getting married to their daughter-in-law, the parents oftentimes in other communities are having those conversations and beginning that structure, beginning those structured plans as well. So those are some of the things that we have to think about. How do we get more creative? How do we close the gap? Because as we said before, it isn't a matter of us not having an appetite for insurance, but making sure that as we're having the discussion, we have a pathway, a framework, and a system to make sure that we find the adequate amount of coverage. So again, I didn't want to lose sight of your point there because again, I thought that was very, very, very well said.
Love everything you said. You know, what else comes to mind for me is, as you've set this up, Patience, is that, you know what, a lot of the thinking that we have in our community, we just didn't arrive here by ourselves, right? When you think about this industry, I often say, you know, our history is a mystery in this industry, right? And I think it's by design that there's a lot of folks who've been, misguided, misdirected, taken advantage of. I mean, you take it back 250 years, 300 years of life insurance, insurance policies were put on the enslaved, right, to benefit the white owner, not the individual insured, right? The race-based underwriting that went on for years, where we overcharged Black people to get less, right? Those debit policies where they went to households and they took out policies that people paid more into them than they were worth, right? The old industrial insurance where they sold Big Mama on the great homegoing, right? But when she passed, the policy was never enough to even cover the cost of the funeral. So a lot of the distrust, mistrust, a lot of the abuse, a lot of the false advertising or the continued advertising that this is only for burial, right? I think is not just us. It's how we got here. So I want to put that in because I think a lot of folks are convenient to say, what's wrong with you all? Right? Same thing in the industry in the way of agents. Why aren't you more successful? What's the problem with your community? I mean, part of this is we're trying to overcome what has happened before, right? We're not starting from scratch. A lot of immigrant groups, when they come over and the agent speaks to them and says, well, I can show you, when you die, what did you come to this country for? To start a better life for myself and my family. Well, listen, you give me a couple $100s a month. When you die, I'll give your children millions. And they're like, oh, this is amazing. What's the most I can get? Unlike us, a lot of us are starting from a negative perspective of this. So wait, before you even convince me about what it can do, why should I trust you? Well, is this company going to be around? Are they really going to pay this out? So I think we got to acknowledge, because, we're talking about the National African American Insurance Association, understand how we got here. And then I think we can delve into some of those, we call them the common objections, right? Or the myths, or the, that I don't want to leave my wife $1 million so she can run off with some other man, right? That I had to pull myself up by my bootstraps, and so my children need to do that too, right? They told me
my kids are grown. They're doing, right. My kids are grown. Right. They're doing well. I'm too old to get started.
Yeah.
Had we talked about this 5 years ago,
that's right.
Life insurance is only valuable if you were to pass away, right? That's which we're going forward, and I think we're attempting to debunk that today. And one of the things that I hear too, to answer your question as well, Patience, is from time to time, I would have conversations with friends, and they'll say, I heard, that if I pass away, I get the death benefit, but the life insurance company keeps the cash value that built up within the contract if it's a permanent policy. And that goes back to, again, the awareness and the lack of education within our community as it talks about the inner workings of these policies. This isn't the call to go through all those bits and pieces, but it's those types of conversations we typically have where we have to sit down with agents, with advisors, and we can really go ahead and rehash and kind of debunk a lot of these myths that keep us away, these misnomers, from taking that first step and securing our financial freedom. I saw someone, and I apologize, I'll look back through the chat, but someone sent a note at one point and just really highlighted the fact that, again, we don't know what we don't know. So it really is a matter of us, going forward and taking this message, taking this mission to our friends, to our families, to our communities, and making sure that, again, as understanding that as agents, as advisors, we have a higher sense of calling, a higher sense of duty, a higher sense of responsibility to make sure that everyone, as one of my buddies says, that within 3 feet of us, not only understands what we do for a living, but understand how the products, the tools, and the solutions, resources that we can offer them can actually help impact them and impact their families as they move forward. That's the commitment that I'm hoping that, if anything is taken at the conclusion of this call, that everyone hops off of this line and understand that it's truly our responsibility to spread this message. And in doing so, it's as simple as going forward and making sure that everyone understands that you can be a voice, that you can be your ear for them to help sherpa them through a process to make sure that they understand their personal wealth potential.
Awesome.
Before we jump, because just thinking about this, there's some others, especially for the audience on the line. I think some misconceptions is that what I have on the job is enough, right? And because and I know patients, when you leave, for the most case, it doesn't travel with you. That's one piece of this, but also 2 times, 3 times your salary. Isn't enough. That's why we have this calculator on our website that's going to walk you through. But what comes to mind, I'm going to call about Omari, as we were talking a while back. He talked about, I think I have a significant number of life insurance, that coverage amount, right? And I said, that's awesome. But let me ask you a question. Let me put this in relation or context, right? what do you think, or how much do you think other individuals in your same position in other organizations that don't look like ours have in the way of life insurance? I think that's a more comparable relation that we should be taking on, because they may have 10, 20, 30, 25 times their salary over there, where we think, 4, 5, 6 times our salary where we are is enough. So I think that's one, as compared to who, right? Others is it's too expensive. I think that's one of the major. Limerick talks about, everybody thinks it's too expensive. So part of our wealth and equity platform, we're talking about, let's set aside first 1% of your salary, right, to cover that other night, protect that 99% for the next 20 years, right? A term policy for a couple $1 million doesn't have to be a lot, right? And the other part, I'll say, I can do it later, I'll wait. There was I'm trying to think of his name. He was saying, I wish I would have listened and bought a permanent policy for myself years ago when I was young, even now. Like you said, Patience, I don't want to give away the age. I got a little bit of grade up here, but I'm looking at the rates. I'm hearing Antaun talk about hit the rates for a couple $1 million on this new platform that we're on as compared to mine. It's significantly more, right? So we have to start while we're younger. It's not expensive, but we got to get it younger. We got to understand what the value is and why we're purchasing it. It's not just to cover the funeral. So those are some of the misconceptions that I wanted to.
It costs less than you think, right? Like, sure. Please, I hope everyone on the line picked that up, right? It costs less than you think. You threw out another word that I don't know if everyone picked it up, but it's about perspective, right? It is truly about perspective in itself, because the reality of it is that we may be talking about, our clients understanding that to purchase a $500,000, $750,000, $1 million worth of 10-year term, 20-year term, just to get themselves started to protect their income replacement and their personal wealth potential, it may cost them 1 or 2 cups of Starbucks a week. Realistically, right? Like, when we really think about it, we're not competing against products and solutions. We're competing against TVs and other habits at this point in time. So just bringing that back and making sure that folks understand that nothing is good or bad unless you can compare it to something. And then comparing this intangible product and solution with something that's tangible may be something that may connect with your clients. The other thing that you touched on, Eugene, as well, that I thought was really powerful, was just the adage about just, the 1% of your assets or the 1% of your income. With wealth managers and property and casualty professionals on the line, as you're talking to your clients, I would think that, that's something that would make sense to them. If they had an option to reposition 1% of their assets to protect the other 99% of their business model and then their assets, wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't that be a good thing or something to explore? And I think that that's the avenue or the conversation that we, as the professionals on the line, can take to our communities, take to our clients, take to our prospects as we move forward.
Great, great, great. So if you're just joining us, we are talking about life insurance and how you can use it for more than just death benefit. We've gone through what life insurance is, and we've talked about the misconceptions. Now let's talk about the benefits, right? So when I got started, I believe it was the first 3 months I started off as a captive agent, and we had gone to training, and I had this one young girl, same age as me. She was, she wasn't bragging, but to me it sounded like bragging, right? She was telling all of us her father had been a life insurance agent for 35 years. He got her several life insurance when she was a baby. And when she was ready to get married, guess where she took the money from? From the benefits of the life insurance the father took on her. And then also when she was ready to buy a house, she borrowed from her whole life insurance. So I want you guys to talk about the benefits of life insurance, right? Not just, we all know that, yes, you get it when you die, right? That's the check that, your agent hands to your family, which makes things easier for them. But I want you guys to touch on the living benefits of life insurance. I know somebody had asked in the questions about, we need to talk about which carriers talk about, offers fertility treatments and things like that, which that is a huge thing right now, as women are having children at an older age and things like that. We need to know, like, what are health insurance covering that? Not every health policies cover that, right? So if there is a life insurance tool that's offering that, we need to tell our community and the women in our community. So I just want the two of you to sort of go through the benefits of life insurance and how we can utilize it while we are still alive.
if I can jump in, because if you're talking about individual benefits, and I'll let you take that on real quick, Antoine, in a second. I also want to talk about the collective benefits. You know, I know one of the questions we had discussed was financial inclusion and models of that. I think one of the best examples for us to frame this is this campaign that we launched and the African American agents led at New York Life Insurance Company. It was called the $50 billion Community Empowerment Plan. And the intention was to educate and then activate, underwrite 200,000 families with at least $250,000 of life insurance, right? 200,000 families with $250,000 of insurance will create $50 billion of protection and tax-free future income. Here's where I'm going. Over the last 10 years, it took us 6.5 years to get that much on the books by the Black agents for the Black community. But over the last 10 years, people have passed away. And over $1 billion has been paid out in death claims back to those families. You know, we've created millionaire families where there weren't before because they took out more than just $250,000. They recognize I'm $1 million asset to my family. If anything happens to me, I want to make sure that my income is paid for, the mortgage is paid for, my kids' education is paid for. Those are things you're asking about individually, right? Those are some of the benefits that we've seen firsthand for those folks who received $1 million were able to do for their families. But here's where I'm going. Since we put that plan in place, over $1 billion, like I said, has been paid out. Think about that, you know, just the impact in a community or the communities around the country to a number of that magnitude, right? When you think about the larger potential of this, during COVID-19, over 1 million folks in the country passed away, right, because of COVID, a heartbreaking number. I think it was 149,000 African Americans passed away because of COVID-19. But think about if they each had a $250,000 policy in place, at least 149,000 times the $250,000 in death benefit would have created $35.6 billion for those families, right? Now, what can't the families, the friends, and the businesses of 149,000 Black people do with $35.6 billion? That's the power and the potential of this tool collectively. That, you know, that I think, you know, individually you can see how it impacts, but as for the agents and advisors on the line, what we're trying to rally for in this new platform is to go 10x this now to 500 billion. That this is the power and the potential of where we go with this. And, you know, like I said, it's a proven, it's not a concept anymore. It's not a theory. We've delivered on this. This is a proven way that we've created wealth the way there wasn't before with this tool of life insurance.
Great. Do you have anything you want to add?
How can I? On that one, Patience, how can I, right? You know, I did see some questions popped up, Clive. I saw your note as well, you know, regarding the business side of the living benefits within the contracts. Eugene touched on a lot of it from the collective standpoint, you know, but as you think about it as a business owner, as well as an individual policy owner, you know, things that we don't talk about oftentimes is, again, those embedded features found within a lot of our permanent contracts out there, the way that these tools are used, the living benefits, to really structure flexibility in retirement, understanding that sometimes the market is up, sometimes the market's down. If you're in retirement and you need access to cash and the market's down, if the only asset you have is your retirement, your IRA, your 401k, and you take monies out, you're realizing losses within your marketplace, right? What a lot of sophisticated or financially savvy folks are doing, as they call it today, right? They're actually leveraging life insurance as a buffer asset or foundational tool in their portfolios so that if the market does go awry, they can tap into that. We've all heard about the infinite banking concept where folks at this point are also banking on themselves, leveraging cash values embedded and found within their life insurance policies to take advantage of other market opportunities, to go forward in the event that there's a cash crunch or a cash flow situation as a business owner or even as an individual, being able to tap into cash when you need it most. These products provide those avenues in the form of living benefits. Eugene and I were talking about this in two different ways, right? Thinking about the supplemental college funds that have also been created, not just because of the death benefits, but because some parents were forward thinking enough when their children were newborns, 1-year-old, 5-year-old, 7-year-olds, and they structured contracts and put them in place. And they said to themselves, I'm committed to saving for my kid in their college fund, but in the event that they don't need the funds for college, they get an athletic or academic scholarship, these funds could be apportioned for something else. Business succession, you know, for business planning, business succession planning, buyouts, key man policies, on and on and on. The top companies in organizations out there, the top banks at this point, TD Bank, what's the biggest asset they have on their balance sheet? Wait for it. Life insurance. You think about Mass Mutual as an insurance carrier, an insurance company. What's the biggest asset they have on their balance sheet? Life insurance. This is a conversation, it's a tool in itself that's right in front of us for all of us to access, for all of us to take advantage of. But it's, again, up to the people on this call to have the conversation and make sure that people are aware that this tool in itself is so accessible, and together we can help them take action and naturally do it in such a way where they can go forward and protect themselves. It's not just about uncovering your personal wealth potential, it's about discovering it, but then also protecting it. And I think that that's what we're all able to do as a collective here.
If I can weigh in one more, if patients, just like you said, the uses of it. What I'm here currently in Brooklyn. We got a home here. What I was told years ago, an example I want to give. So what the Jewish family right next to me here in Brooklyn will do, they'll take out $1 million of life insurance on the 2 oldest in their family. And in that family of 20, the 18 others will make the payments on it. I'm just bringing some ideas and strategies of using this tool, right? Let's be well beyond the death benefit. Because what they're saying, you and I, hopefully we're going to live another 30, 40, 50 years before our families receive the life insurance. Grandma and grandpa might pass in the next 10, 20 years. But what that's going to happen is $2 million is going to come into their family tax-free. And what do they do with it right next to us here, right? They pay for all the kids' college educations for, right? So they don't have a student loan crisis next door to me here because they have set up their children this kind of way. They give them money, the 20% down for down payments on these multi-family brownstone units that they have here, right? So these are units that have rental income. So they don't pay PMI, right? They get the favorable loans because they put 20% down. The houses have rental income coming in, and then they can use a floor of the building to start their own business, and the family will fund the young folks to start their own businesses, right? So this is our family funded our start of our business by using this tool of life insurance. These are benefits, like I said, outside of our community that folks are using that we've started to do. Me and my sister went to my parents and said, we, like the Jewish family, want to take out a policy on y'all. This goes into one of your questions. The joke is they stopped returning the calls and they stopped, put more locks on the door. But I said, it wasn't about, us profiting off of your death or trying to, push you down the stairs. It's about setting up your grandchildren and your great grandchildren. That's what we'll use these proceeds for. And to look about it's not that expensive. We took out a $500,000 policy on both my parents. Both have to pass before we get the money, right? But it cost us $300 a month. Me and my sister split that. It's $150 each to get a guaranteed $500,000 at some point in the future. Those are the benefits that I think we have to continue to tell the stories of.
And you're telling a story of multi-generational planning.
That's
right?
That's right.
That's what other communities are leveraging, and that's how they're using this product as they move forward. They're setting the stage. They're having that conversation with their folks about the 3 tiers, right? Not just about insuring yourself and your spouse, but making sure that you insure your children and give them a head start. But then when you think about your own potential family inheritance, you have an opportunity to take advantage of that or leverage that by structuring contracts on your parents, grandparents. And again, not saying that, hey, as you said, patients, you're trying to kill me off, right? Like that's not what we're talking about here. What we're saying here is we want to help make you guys, we want to help honor you as the matriarchs and patriarchs of the family. And as Eugene talked about, these are all the cool things that we can do, not what this stuff is called, but what we can do with the product and the solution that you, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa structured, right? In the form of this trust, in the form of this legacy, in the form of this inheritance. And that's the conversation that we can all have. And that's the really creative ways that we can leverage this tool that we're seeing others taking advantage of.
Awesome. So we are 9 minutes. We have 9 more minutes to go. But based on what I'm seeing in the chat, this is a wonderful conversation. But there's one thing in the chat that I want to read out from John. John said that I got my first permanent whole life policy as a gift from my parents. And when I turned 21, I got it when I turned 21 while I was in college. The premium was $330 annually. Now at 52, I illustrate 30-year term someone my age, and it is $1,500 or more a year. So one of the things that I do want to stress on is life insurance is so much more cheaper when you get it at a young age. Now, I know a lady in our community that her son passed away last year accidentally, but unfortunately, she never had life insurance on her son. Now, as you guys are considering getting life insurance, think about endorsing your children on your policies, right? As you go along, and also getting the separate life insurance policies on them as well. It's so much cheaper if you get them permanent life insurance at an early age, instead of getting them a cell phone for a 16th birthday. Get them a whole life policy, right? Instead of getting them a car for graduation, get them an older car and put the rest towards life insurance. These are all the things that we need to do to help set up our children for an easier future, for an easier life as they grow. And, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, but we are having these conversations now so that we can help set up the next generation and keep educating our community about life insurance. So there is a question that says, what is the value of whole life over term life, and why should I consider getting it since it is so much more expensive?
Sure. Okay. Before we jump in, just in the essence of time, can I also reference, and we said we could put it in the chat box, our website where a lot of this information will be housed. So wealthandequity.org. Wealthandequity.org. It's going live today for financial literacy, Life Insurance Awareness Month, right? But where I'm going is that what we want to do is share all of these explanations from a culturally competent perspective, right? Yeah. Trying to meet folks where they are, right? And tell them and show them how they can learn more about those same questions. What's the difference between term and permanent? Why should I pay more? Just a quick example, hopefully you'll outlive the term, right? If I have a 20-year term, I want to outlive it, but do I have anything in place after that? To 20 years from now, that permanent policy is going to be just too expensive, or any policy is likely going to be too expensive for me to have in place. Those are things that we have on this website, just as a quick example, right? What we're doing is going to tailor the message and different campaigns around scaling to $500 billion of life insurance coverage across diverse and underserved communities. Right? We want to showcase these impact stories where folks have received and benefited from this tool of life insurance. What else would you say about and we want to encourage everybody to log on and go through the calculator. You want to share that there, Antaun?
Well, as far as sharing the calculator in itself, or
that we're inviting everybody on the line and going forward to figure out their own personal wealth potential.
No doubt about it there, right? And that's what Eugene said. As far as the personal wealth potential in our calculator, where we're trying to do is really just trying to change the narrative in the conversation, our relationship, our tradition as it relates to how we view life insurance, how we view our relationship with money, with wealth transference, with wealth building. And really, as we talked about other financial tools and calculators that are out there in the industry, they typically talk about folks looking for income replacement avenues and looking at their life insurance protection value just in this sense of income replacement, or how much do you want to leave for a final expense standpoint. We've gone ahead and we've created multiple factors, 8 to 12 factors in which you can go ahead and really identify who you are, what your value is from a personal wealth potential standpoint. From that point, what we're also looking to do with the calculator is just really give you a roadmap, help give your clients a roadmap that they can go forward and recognize where they are. You may start with a term contract, like someone stated, right? Why should I purchase whole life versus purchasing term insurance? I would say it all depends. Temporary term insurance is one of the most cost-effective ways to get yourself protected and protect your personal wealth potential. However, if you're working with someone who's saying that, I'm looking for an asset, and I've heard life insurance in itself can be a valuable tool. Well, whole life insurance, permanent life insurance is also an asset class and can be treated as such that. So as we said before, nothing is good or bad unless you can compare it to something. But when you're looking at life insurance contracts, that is something that that falls true there as well. If you're looking for the most cost-effective way just to protect your personal your PWP, term insurance is a great solution. But if you're looking for a way to bank on yourself to leverage cash values in the event that you need it, or to create a buffer in your overall financial portfolio, that's why we see clients who have additional dollars, discretionary income, purchase permanent life insurance versus that of just temporary term. As Eugene said, our site, our platform and ecosystem really dives into not just with text, but also videos that tells the stories, as well as provides a lot of these explanations in detail. And we welcome the opportunity to have those conversations with each of you if you see fit.
Awesome, awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation. I hope all of you that attended today, you learned something new from this. And if you didn't learn something new, I hope your knowledge of what you know about life insurance has been enhanced throughout this process. And like we said earlier during this webinar, this is going to be recorded and is going to be posted on the NAAIA YouTube. I'm going to have Jasper come and take over the rest. And I hope you enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you to all three of you.
Thank you for watching this flashback episode of NAAIA. We appreciate your time and hope you found the insights valuable. Stay tuned for more enriching content. Until next time, thank you for being a part of the NAAIA community.